Dear ladies and gentlemen, good evening, everyone. Let me begin by telling you a story of a young woman named Sarah. She stood at the edge of a cliff overlooking a vast ocean. The wind was strong, and the waves below seemed to call to her with both promise and peril. For years, Sarah had dreamed of making a change in her life, of following her passion, but she kept putting it off, letting fear and doubt hold her back. Now, years later, she felt the weight of regret. She could have started earlier, made a leap when the opportunity was fresh, and yet she waited. But here's the twist. Sarah didn't just stand there frozen by her regret. She made a decision. She looked into the depths below, and instead of seeing a dangerous drop, she saw possibility. She saw that her regrets weren't chains keeping her stuck. They were the very fuel she needed to propel herself forward. I want you to remember this. Regret doesn't have to be your anchor. It can be your wings. Now, I know many of us are terrified of regret. We fear it, avoid it, and sometimes even deny it. We worry that regret will define us, that it will expose us as failures. But I want to tell you something. Regret is not your enemy. It's a part of life. It's a sign that we've been living fully, that we've dared to reach for something beyond what we currently have. The key is not to let it paralyze you, but to let it teach you. Today, I want to share two powerful truths with you about how regret can actually move you forward. Dear ladies and gentlemen, first, regret is a teacher, not a trap. We've all felt it, that heavy, sinking feeling in our stomach. The weight of a decision that we can't take back, the haunting echo of words we wish to never said, the moments we wish we could erase. Regret. It's a part of life and an inevitable companion in our journey, but so often we treat it like an enemy. We see it as a trap, a mistake we're supposed to learn from, but something we'd prefer to forget. But what if I told you that regret doesn't have to be the enemy? What if regret is actually the greatest teacher you'll ever have? Imagine for a moment that regret isn't the thing holding you back, it's the thing pushing you forward. I want to invite you to reconsider how you view this powerful emotion. Regret often feels like something we need to avoid, something we shouldn't experience if we want to live a happy and successful life. And it's true, we're all wired to avoid pain, to dodge discomfort, to keep moving forward without looking back. Yet, the more we try to avoid regret, the more we miss out on its invaluable lessons. Think about the last time you had a moment of regret. Maybe it was about a choice you made that didn't work out the way you hoped. Maybe it was about a chance you didn't take. Maybe it was the job you didn't apply for, the dream you didn't chase, or the relationship you let slip through your fingers. That moment of regret can feel paralyzing. It can make you question your choices, your judgment, and even your worth. But here's the truth. Regret is not here to make you feel bad about yourself. It's here to teach you something important about who you are and what you really want. Regret, when understood properly, is the greatest compass you can have in life. It tells you what matters. It shows you what you value, what you believe in, and what you're willing to fight for. Think of it as a mirror reflecting back at you the areas in your life where you need to grow, where you need to change, where you need to be more true to yourself. Take, for example, a simple daily situation. You've had a long, stressful day at work, and you find yourself snapping at someone you care about, maybe a partner, a friend, or a colleague. In that moment, you might feel justified, even though deep down, you know you've crossed a line. Later, when the dust settles, regret sets in. You wish you'd handled it differently, with more patience and understanding. In that moment, regret is not a punishment. It's an opportunity to learn. It's telling you that you care about your relationships, that you value kindness and empathy. Regret is shining a light on your core values, on the person you want to be. Instead of seeing it as a trap that keeps you stuck in your mistake, you can choose to see it as a teacher, a guide that helps you understand what you can do better next time. Regret helps you take responsibility for your actions and shows you the path to becoming a better version of yourself. But here's the kicker. Regret only has the power to hurt us if we let it. If we dwell on it, wallow in it, and let it drag us down, then yes, it can feel like a trap. But if we take the time to reflect on it, to understand it, and to use it as a springboard for growth, regret becomes a powerful force for change. Let me give you another example. Think about someone who, at the end of their career, looks back and regrets not taking more risks. They regret not speaking up more, not pursuing that passion project, not taking the leap into the unknown. This kind of regret is a common theme in many people's lives, especially those who have spent years in a job or role they don't truly love. But here's the beautiful thing about this kind of regret: it's not too late. As long as you're breathing, you have the power to change. That regret, as painful as it might be, can be the very thing that pushes you to take that leap now. It can be the fire that lights up your passion and gives you the courage to go after what you've always wanted. We live in a world that constantly tells us to avoid regret at all costs. We're taught to move on quickly, to shake off our mistakes, to pretend like nothing ever went wrong. But what if I told you that embracing regret, actually sitting with it, understanding it, and learning from it could lead to a life of greater meaning and fulfillment? Think about it. How many times have you looked back on your life and wished you'd made a different decision, that you had taken a different path? Regret is a natural response to those moments. But the truth is, we all make mistakes. We all mess up. That's part of being human. The key is not to let your mistakes define you, but to use them as opportunities for growth. The more you allow yourself to feel regret without judgment or shame, the more you open yourself up to change and transformation. Here's the thing about regret: it forces you to be honest with yourself. It asks you tough questions. What did I learn from this? What can I do better next time? And here's the real magic: it gives you the power to answer those questions. It gives you the chance to take responsibility, to own up to your mistakes, and to do better. In this way, regret doesn't keep you stuck in the past. It gives you the tools to move forward. I want you to think for a moment about the people in your life who inspire you. Maybe it's someone you know personally, or maybe it's someone famous, someone whose life and achievements you admire. Do you think they've never felt regret? Do you think they've never made mistakes or wished they'd done things differently? Of course they have. But what sets them apart is not the fact that they were free of regret, it's how they responded to it. They didn't let it stop them. They didn't use it as an excuse to give up. Instead, they used it as fuel. They used it to propel themselves forward, to keep going, to do better. Take Thomas Edison, for example. When he was working on the light bulb, he failed thousands of times before he finally succeeded. Imagine how much regret he must have felt during all those failures. But instead of giving up, instead of letting regret drown him, he famously said, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." He didn't see his mistakes as failures to be regretted. He saw them as lessons, as opportunities to learn and refine his approach. Regret is not the thing that holds us back. It's our response to it that either propels us forward or keeps us stuck. The most successful people in the world are not those who avoid regret. They're the ones who embrace it, learn from it, and use it to fuel their next move. They understand that regret is not a trap, it's a teacher. And in that teaching, there's power. But here's where it gets even more interesting. Regret can also teach us something about ourselves that we might not even realize. Have you ever had a moment of regret and then realized something about your true values or desires? Maybe you regretted staying in a job that didn't fulfill you, and through that regret, you discovered that your true passion isn't helping others. Maybe you regretted not spending more time with your family, and through that regret, you realized that the most important thing in life is connection and love. Regret has this incredible power to reveal who we really are. It strips away the distractions and the surface level desires and shows us what truly matters. And when we understand what truly matters, we are empowered to make different choices moving forward. And here's the paradox: the very thing we often try to avoid, regret, is the thing that, when embraced, gives us clarity, purpose, and direction. It allows us to move beyond the surface level distractions and dive deep into what is truly important. So, next time you feel regret, don't push it away. Don't try to run from it. Instead, sit with it for a moment. Ask yourself, what is this regret teaching me? What can I learn from this? You might be surprised at the answers you uncover. And remember, regret is not a punishment. It's an invitation, a chance to reflect, learn, and grow. The lesson here is simple. Regret doesn't need to be feared or avoided. It's not a trap. It's a guide, a teacher. And if you allow yourself to embrace it, to learn from it, to grow through it, regret will become one of the most powerful forces for good in your life. It won't hold you back. It will propel you forward, helping you become the person you're meant to be. Ladies and gentlemen, imagine standing at the crossroads of life where the path you've walked so far suddenly feels uncertain, and the choices you've made start to loom large in your mind. You look back and you see them, the moments when you hesitated, the chances you didn't take, the opportunities that passed you by. Regret. That heavy, almost suffocating emotion creeping in like an unwanted guest, whispering, what if you had done things differently? But let me ask you this, what if regret isn't the end of the road? What if it's not the thing that pulls you down into the abyss of despair, but rather the thing that pushes you forward into action, into change, into growth? I want to propose an idea that may sound strange at first, but bear with me. Regret is not a reason to quit, it's a call to action. We are all familiar with regret. It's that sinking feeling when you realize that something has been left undone or that a moment has passed, never to return. It's that nagging voice that tells you you should have tried harder, been braver, or made a different choice. It's the self-criticism we all go through after making a decision that didn't turn out the way we expected. The fear of regret can be so powerful that it paralyzes us, making us hesitant to act, afraid that whatever we do will lead to yet another regret. But here's the truth. Regret is not the enemy. It's not something to fear or avoid. Regret is simply a signpost, pointing us towards something deeper, something more meaningful, urging us to take the next step, not to retreat into inaction or self-pity. The truth is that regret is not a punishment, it's a signal, a call to do better, to try again, to take a risk, to change direction. If we listen closely, regret is actually one of the greatest motivators we have. Think about this for a moment. You've heard the saying, it's better to have tried and failed than to have never tried at all, right? It's a cliche, but it's also incredibly true. And if we look at the people who have inspired us, the ones who've accomplished great things in their lives, what we often forget is that they've had their share of regrets. They've missed opportunities, made mistakes, and taken wrong turns, just like you and I. But the difference is that instead of letting regret keep them stuck, they used it as fuel. Regret didn't stop them, it drove them. Take Thomas Edison, for example. When he was inventing the light bulb, he didn't just have a few small failures. He failed thousands of times. Imagine how much regret he must have felt each time he tried something and it didn't work. If he had allowed himself to become paralyzed by that regret, we might still be sitting in the dark today. But instead, Edison famously said, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." His regret didn't hold him back, it pushed him forward. Each failure became a stepping stone, each mistake a lesson. Regret wasn't a reason for him to quit, it was the reason he kept going, kept improving, and ultimately succeeded. Now let's bring it down to something more personal. Maybe you've been stuck in a job you don't love. You've been comfortable, sure, but deep down you know there's something more out there for you. Perhaps you regret not following your passion earlier, or you regret not taking that chance when it was presented to you. It's easy to stay in that space of regret, to get comfortable in your dissatisfaction, to convince yourself that it's too late to change. But here's the thing, regret is not a wall, it's a doorway. That feeling of I should have done more is not an invitation to give up, it's the nudge you need to take that first step toward a new path. It's a reminder that you're still here, still capable of change, still full of potential. That regret, it's your fuel. It's a call to action. Let's face it, life is filled with choices. Every single day we make decisions that impact the course of our lives. Some of them are small, almost unnoticeable in the grand scheme of things, but others can change everything. And the thing about life is we don't always know which decisions are going to lead to regret until we look back from the future. The decision you make today could be the one you look back on years from now with a sense of, I wish I had done that differently. But here's the kicker. Instead of letting that I wish turn into an I can't, let it turn into I will. Here's a story you might recognize. A friend of mine recently told me about a decision she made a few years ago. She had the chance to travel abroad for work, a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. But she hesitated. She was afraid of leaving her comfort zone, of abandoning her routine, of facing the unknown. So she stayed. And for a while, it was fine. She continued her job, stayed in her familiar environment, and carried on with life as usual. But over time, she began to feel that nagging sense of regret. What if? What if she had taken the leap? What if that experience could have changed her life in ways she couldn't even imagine? Now, did this regret keep her stuck? Did it paralyze her with guilt? No. She didn't let regret become her excuse for inaction. Instead, she used it as her call to action. The next time an opportunity came up, she took it without hesitation. She moved abroad, changed careers, and discovered a world of possibility she hadn't even realized existed. That regret, the what if moment, wasn't something she allowed to trap her. It was something she learned from, something she grew through. Regret was the spark that lit her fire. And that's what I want you to understand today. Regret is not the end. It is never a reason to quit. Instead, it is a prompt, a trigger, a signal to act. The person who regrets not taking the job 5 years ago isn't destined to live in regret forever. They're destined to act on the next opportunity, to step forward and seize it. The person who regrets not saying I love you to someone isn't bound by that regret forever. They can say it the next time the opportunity arises. Regret is not a weight to drag behind you. It is not a wound that will never heal. It is a reminder that you are still alive, still capable of changing your circumstances. It's a call to take action, to do better, to make the choice that will bring you closer to the life you truly want. Regret is a teacher, and its lesson is clear. Don't let the past define you, let it drive you. You might be sitting there right now thinking, but what if I've made so many mistakes? What if my regrets are too big to overcome? Let me tell you something, everyone has regrets. Everyone. Even the most successful people you admire have their moments of what if. But here's the secret, they don't let it stop them. They don't let their past mistakes define their future. Instead, they use those regrets to fuel their next steps. They ask themselves, what have I learned from this? How can I use this experience to do better next time? So, what's the next step for you? What's the call to action that regret is sending you? Maybe it's time to pick up the phone and call that person you've been meaning to reconnect with. Maybe it's time to take a leap of faith and finally pursue that dream you've been putting off for years. Maybe it's time to forgive yourself for the mistakes you've made and move forward with a fresh perspective. Whatever it is, remember this, regret is never a reason to quit. It's a reason to begin again. You have everything you need to turn your regret into your greatest motivational the next time you feel that familiar pang of I should have done this differently. Let it propel you into action. Don't let it hold you back. Don't let it define you. Instead, let it be the catalyst that pushes you toward your next great chapter. In the end, it's not the absence of regret that leads to success. It's how you respond to it. Will you let it stop you, or will you let it push you? Will you let regret become the thing that holds you back? Or will you use it to fuel the next step in your journey? The choice, my friends, is yours. And I know you will choose to act. Ladies and gentlemen, in closing, I want to leave you with this. Regret is not the chains that bind you, it is the wind that pushes you forward. It's a signal, not a sentence. It is not a reason to quit, but a call to action. When you face regret, instead of allowing it to paralyze you, let it ignite your passion, fuel your determination, and guide you toward the person you are meant to become. Remember, every decision, every choice, every misstep And every success has led you to this moment. And from here, you have the power to decide where to go next. The past doesn't define you, nor does your regret. Your future is shaped by what you do with what you've learned, how you choose to act, and how you move forward. So, the next time regret's on your don't greet it with fear. Greet it with the courage and to learn to keep moving toward the life you deserve. You are capable of turning every moment of regret into a stepping stone that leads you towards something better, something greater. You have the strength, the wisdom, and the power to move beyond your past, and with that power, I know you will rise higher than you ever imagined. Thank you.